This is Philosophy versus Improv, where two sages try to teach each other a thing or two, and maybe you, the audience, get something out of it as well.
I'm Mark Linsenmeyer. I just love that philosophy, and I have some fondness for improv.
I am. Uh-oh, can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Already, there's a problem.
We have a technical issue here. I am. Who am I? I'm Bill Arnett, improviser and budding philosopher.
You know,
but if you can hear me okay, then we're probably okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Can you people out there in the world hear me?
Silence.
They don't say anything.
Silence.
Do you feel like we are fundamentally isolated from each other and from the people out there, even though they can see us?
Wow. Yeah. You're saying like the technology isolates people? Are we not really having a conversation? Is that what you're suggesting? We're not really conversing?
I don't know. Maybe that it's like I'm watching TV, but then I'm talking to the TV, and that just makes you crazy.
Yes, that does. Give me 30 seconds here. You know, it's dark audacity. It's just seemingly liking and then not liking. I'm trying a new microphone here. I hope I sound so much better.
You sound fabulous.
Identical. All right. If you can hear me, then then the recording equipment should be able to hear me also.
Sounds good.
No pun intended. But how do we know what's real, Mark? Is that what you're getting for?
No. I mean, I wasn't. I was searching. I was searching for something that might be interesting to muse about.
Okay.
Do you do that?
Okay.
Do you do that?
Oh yeah.
You look thither. You look hither. You're trying to see whether what the big thing that's puzzling you is, and a lot of times it's just the distance between your mouth and your brain. That's a tricky thing.
And it's not instantaneous travel from brain to, and it's possible that the world can change in the time it takes for that message to get out. And then speed of sound, it's got to go from my mouth to my microphone, and then through the pipes of the internet to you, turned back into sound, to be then reinterpreted by your ear, send to your brain.
And then to the people out there who are not seeing this live.
No.
How many weeks? What could have happened? I tell you, so many times I record some brilliant thing, and then by the time I release it, it's a little dumb.
Yeah.
It's not so brilliant anymore.
I had a Uber driver this last weekend who is one of these people who I thought we were having a conversation, but I don't think we were. I think he just had his own little agenda.
Was he trying to sell you?
He would hear what I was saying, but then take it in a way I could never have imagined. So if I was to be like, "Hey, what'd you have for lunch today?" He might be like, "Oh, food. Can't live without it."
Like, this sounds like we're starting a scene.
It could be. It might be.
Are you the driver, or am I the driver?
I can be the driver. Are you Mark?
Yeah.
All right. Hop on in.
All right. You got the destination. Shouldn't be that long trip.
My computer tells me.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work. I don't have to tell you anything.
Oh boy, there was a traffic jam on the street coming in. You think Biden had something to do with that?
Getting Biden? What? Oh,
You know, motorcades, when they have those motorcades, they're real expensive. They're real expensive when they do those motorcades.
yeah, but I don't. Why would there be a motorcade here? I don't think Biden was in Chicago recently.
You heading out of town, or are you going back home?
Oh, I'm just here visiting somebody.
Okay. Heading back to the airport, yeah.
Yeah, no, this is not that. The destination I give you is not the airport.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Lincoln Park neighborhood. There's no airport there.
Yeah, no airport there at all. Yeah, just meeting up with some friends. We're gonna see a improv show.
You think Biden had anything to do with there not being an airport in the Lincoln Park?
I'm almost sure not. Do you
I voted for him. I voted for him.
Okay, yeah, so did I. That's good. I mean, what other choice did we have, really?
I mean, you could have gotten fries with that. Maybe you had that choice, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's always things to do besides voting, but I think it's important to I don't just vote in the big elections. I vote even in the little elections.
You know, some restaurants they're Coke restaurants, and some got Pepsi.
Yeah, and I guess you're voting with your feet when you choose which ones you choose to go to.
That's where I put my shoes.
On the way into one of those restaurants.
On my feet. On my feet.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's right. At least what my daughter tells me.
Are you sure this is the right way?
I'm following the map here. There might be some traffic, you know. Didn't you say earlier that there was a motorcade coming through town?
I did not say there was a motorcade at all. I mean, I'm looking at the map as well, and you were supposed to turn, at least Apple Maps is saying that if you had turned right just where we passed, it would be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now it's rerouting me. I mean,
you know, she did that thing where if you go to community college, then you can go to a state school on automatic enrollment at a state school.
This is your daughter. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great for her.
Mm-hmm.
Which
psychology?
Which state school is she going to go to?
Oh no, she's 40.
Okay. So that's already done. Well, that was how'd that work out for her?
Well, after school, she decided she probably wanted to get a job with something in the healthcare industry. You know, and you know how they have those places where you go when you're not feeling well. Well, she got a job there at that place. And then they said, hey, you know, we're hiring back in Chicago. Would you want to transfer? And she said, well, yes, that's where my father lives. And then it took, 3 or 4 years. But now she's back here.
All right. That's
I didn't think I'd ever leave California.
So that happened earlier?
That's where she was born.
Okay. All right. And what part of California?
South of San Francisco. Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's very south. Okay, that's almost a different state, right? It's quite different, I'm told, between the northern and the southern.
Police car. Police car.
Yeah.
You think they caught somebody?
I don't know. I mean, they're going pretty fast. I get maybe they're on their way to catch somebody, but
I think they already got somebody, and they just want to get him to jail quick.
Do you think they turn on the sirens just whenever they just want to, get a coffee really quick or something like that? Just not related to law
Oh,
enforcement.
no.
So getting somebody to jail, that can be an emergency that they can't be in the car for any length.
The fire department, they've got sirens and things too,
Yeah. It seems like more trucks, more kinds of vehicles should have sirens.
And what airline are you flying? United or American or?
I'm not flying right now. I'm going to my buddy's
Okay,
house.
because there's different places to drop people off,
Yeah, but we're not. I just the address that is in your computer.
Yeah.
Seems like okay. My phone is rerouting again. It seems like we should have been there quite a while ago.
Probably so.
I mean, it was a flat fee for the distance, so I'm not sure why this is not why you'd run up the.
I should ask you for directions, huh?
I mean, I'm not the native, so yeah. It is.
I didn't grow up here either.
One could just you just put the address in the computer there, the phone.
Okay, here we are.
Thanks. 5 stars. Give me.
That was about 85% my job, my experience, my cab ride.
So that was. I'm so glad we could bring the world into experience that with us. And I was trying to play it straight, like you often say, and not have some secret agenda. There's not some, but it seems like because, in fact, in a real situation, do not try to engage these people. I mean, I've had a couple Uber rides that, like, yeah, okay, the person was really nice. We ended up talking, but it's never my. I don't know. I guess it depends what mood I'm in. Right?
I'm generally the same way. This guy was engaging me directly, and I kind of got curious about him. So if he left an opening, I wanted him to talk more. He did question some of Biden's choices around the traffic in Metro Atlanta area.
I mean, who wouldn't, really?
Yes. But again, it was never like, I blame him, I'm voting for Trump, I hate Biden. It was just, oh, the president's been at it.
I mean,
yes. And he did ask me for directions. He straight up asked me for directions. Yes.
I think the more confusing, I had a ride like that, and there were multiple hotels of the same type, and it was sort of like, I think we were staying in one because the airline put us up there because the flight got delayed, so it was one of these things. But we were taken to the wrong one, and then had to hurry and flag down the guy before he went away when we realized that it happens.
Well, I got a philosophy question for you.
Please.
Is there a consensus around when the state can or can't deny somebody their civil rights? When can you just take crazy people and just hoover them up and not mistreat them, but just not let them participate in society?
I mean, I've been watching a lot of Planet of the Apes, so it seems like if you determine that it's actually not a person at all,
classic,
then you can do
POA or new POA,
both.
Okay,
I've pretty much completed classic. I mean, I guess they're old, but they're pretty terrible. For the
lowercase c classic.
Yeah, and there's a lot of discussion about just because you can talk doesn't mean that you're worthy of respect. If you're an ape or a human, as the case may be, it might cause us to look at our own behavior, how we might mistreat intelligent talking apes the same way that in the movie they mistreat the intelligent, unexpectedly talking humans.
How do not very nice people bridge between here's a class of people who are inferior, here's, say, a dumb blonde, and say they do some tests and mathematically they prove that on average, blonde-haired people are dumber than, less intelligent than non-blonde-haired people. All right, we've proven it. Scientific fact. Therefore, we get to mistreat them. How does that? What's the philosophical underpinning of, because we have a dominant, we're the dominant race, we must dominate and mistreat and enslave the, you know what I'm saying? Like, and by that,
because they like it, probably.
You can't say that philosophically, though, can you? It makes me feel good to mistreat people.
Lots of philosophers
put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I was more thinking that the mistreated people, that there's a rationalization that, they like it. They like when you take control. They don't know what to do with themselves. They just like to have someone come in with a firm hand.
Okay.
And grip them.
It doesn't sound like it's going to hold up, but yeah.
And if you ask them, they might say, no, we actually don't prefer that. But they don't know what they're talking about. You've just shown that they're less intelligent.
Well, couldn't you then take, all right, well, we'll take the superior, the non-blonde people, and we'll give them an intelligence test. And I bet we would learn that some of them, perhaps even a sizable portion, are not as smart as the already scientifically proven to be dumb blondes. Does that mean that we should, even though they are, quote unquote, higher level on the food chain, they are dumber than the other dumb people, that we should mistreat them?
I mean, 3 out of 4 of the 4 non-blondes are definitely dumber than Blondie. Absolutely.
Yes.
Either Debbie Harry Blondie or classic comic strip / a film Blondie.
Yeah. Blondie Bumstead.
Yes, there you go. And there's probably a famous actress involved in those classic movies, but I couldn't tell you who it is. Let's just say Audrey Hepburn. It's definitely not Audrey Hepburn, but I think that'd be funny.
And I know I've been throwing some crass locker room talk around here so far, but I'll just keep this going. Dagwood did okay for himself. Let me just say, he did all right.
A big sandwich. He got a sweet lady.
Objectively beautiful woman. Objectively.
What else?
Does a dog? They got a dog.
Tilly got drafted and had to hang out with that Beetle Bailey.
He did? That happened?
They do crossovers in these things.
Okay.
They're just inches away. There's no reason not to. It's just IP.
Yeah.
In the future world, where when all the copyright runs out, they'll just keep running. In fact, why don't right now, ChatGPT can certainly come up with comics that are just as good as what is on the comic strip pages.
Yes. I'm going to say yes. That is a
low
low bar.
Buy the actual properties so that it can just, Blondie can continue long after, because it's probably the 3rd generation person doing it now. And, they don't want to write it. They don't want to draw those things. So definitely just have a machine do it and turn it in, and there's too much mustard on his sandwich.
At it again. Boy, you don't see many newspapers lying around like you used to. I guess that's just, the times we live in. But man, since achieving adulthood at 18, I don't think comic strip comics have been funny. Well, there's a few exceptions, and there's some legacy ones that are nice, but after your Far Sides, and we'll even throw Doonesbury in there. That one appears to be trying, at least. The amount of postage being spent mailing in all those comics. I hope they got a Pitney Bowes, because there are some horrible comic strips out there that I think people only like for it's an old friend. It's a legacy thing.
And when do you get to the point with a comic that you feel like you can mistreat it because it's been shown to be dumb?
How dumb is it? Yeah. I think because they put themselves out in the public, you can tear into them right away.
And is that just as an audience member or as a creator / owner? Like who gets to mistreat the comic? Do you have to own the comic? Do you have to?
Wow. If I bought the paper, if I spent, the money on the paper.
Okay, so just actually ripping, if you say every day I'm going to get the paper just so I can open to Beetle Bailey and rip it into a million pieces because I hate it so much.
Ah, why? Yeah, I think I have the legal right to do that in the privacy of my own home.
Yeah, I might have told you at some point. A friend of mine reminded me of this, that I'd be in a restaurant with him and I'd get a burger or something with tomato on it, and I didn't want the tomato, and I would throw the tomato out very violently. And he's like, "Why don't you just order it without tomato?" And I said, "Because I hate the tomato and I want to throw them away." But yet, all that's doing is telling the company that I do want tomato, and you should keep farming the tomatoes. You should keep bringing the tomatoes you should keep mistreating the tomato plants.
Mm-hmm. And the carbon footprint, just so you can express your hate.
Yes. So I think that's the same with the comic strips, that you're telling the author of Beetle Bailey,
yes,
keep on bringing those in. They might be be used in the way you would like, but they're being used. They're being torn up with rage.
I'm a vociferous advocate of the print media. Anyone who knows me, I have been to Springfield to make sure that my voice is heard when they pass legislation that might affect legacy print media. I have tried to join the journalists union to know that I support them, because if this gets taken away from me, how will I be able to angrily tear up Beetle Bailey? It's perfect. That makes perfect sense.
I went on a really long campaign to get Beetle Bailey moved above Blondie, to be right at the top, because I wanted to be able to more easily rip just that one strip out and destroy it. When I had to before cut around the other ones before I could gingerly take it out and then destroy it, that was so much more time consuming.
As a kid, it's like, well, I'll read Garfield. Okay, well, that's kind of fun. But then it's, these other comics, those are adult comics, and then you get older and you start reading, High and Lois, or, well, I would say for better or worse, I think that person tried. I got to give a little bit of credit for trying. They didn't always hit their mark, but I think they did care enough. But, or like the Lockhorns or something, where it's just like, they just hate each other. This is like,
I didn't like that these kid comics were next to adult comics like Bloody Gash of Pleasure and
which is not what you think it is.
Fisting.
Again, not what you think it is.
Yeah. As a child, yes. I didn't need those things.
Well, it was just very confusing, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'd be reading my Snoopy, and I would think that actually the plot of Snoopy was continuing with Bloody Gash of Pleasure, and I would be really confused. I'm like, is this one of Snoopy's dreams where he's trying to amuse himself? I just think like the whole rest of the page is Snoopy trying to amuse himself.
Do you think having read those comics changed you as a person? Those adult comics, did they make you a bad person as an adult?
Well, I'd like to think that my behavior in my marriage was very much influenced by the lock horns, because they were always lock-in horns. They just they had some bad habits, and I would see that and I would say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to belittle my spouse
at every possible turn.
Yes. I'm going to keep my horns unlocked.
Wow. You need those bad examples. You need those bad examples.
And then, Bloody Gash of Pleasure. I did spend a little time in juvie because of that comic. But,
yeah. Okay.
Then they got rid of it, so it was okay.
Okay. That's, yeah.
It's when children are subject. It was more video games.
Mm-hmm.
So like I played Pac-Man on Atari, not even in the arcade, on the Atari, where the graphics were really bad. And I just thought I could just walk around like eating stuff and then like going out one door and coming in a door on the opposite side of the house. And I would just be trying that stuff. And you just can't do that.
Do you think that, well, here we go, talking about taking someone's rights away. In Australia, apparently, if you're a a licensed driver, yet a minor, 16, 17, maybe 18, I don't know, driving your parents' car and you get in an accident or speed or you get a ticket, they can actually take your parents' car away.
I mean, that's only fair. They should be able to take, really, on any pretense, they should be able to take everything away from you. And that's exactly what's happening to our dear, dear president. He just did such a slight thing, and now they're just taking away everything.
Biden's going to take everything. You think he's going to stop at your guns? You think he'll stop at your guns? No.
He better stop at my guns.
Get this. Biden's going to say, you can only sleep in a twin bed. He's taking away king-size beds, taking away queen-size beds. Everybody sleeps in a twin bed.
Next, Biden is going to try to take away my caltrops. I keep my caltrops behind the guns, and when he tries to do that, he's going to step on those caltrops, and he's going to get a spike in his foot.
Biden will personally be collecting everyone's guns.
I mean, he does like to personally collect the caltrops. I did hear that.
Is the word I'm looking for specious? When people make ridiculous arguments.
I mean, sure, that's a word.
Okay. Just thinking more about the whole Democrats want to take your guns away. Like, yeah, I think that's going to go for them. You think they're going to win the election after they try doing that? Well, of course not.
The Democrats want to take your lockhorns away. They're like, the lockhorns are such a bad example of how to behave toward your spouse.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah.
The lockhorns perpetuate toxic masculinity
and
toxic. They would make you ashamed to go to sleep with curlers in your hair. Right? Because
I think many of the comics have a horrible influence. Why are we deifying Vikings? Hagar the Horrible. Why is he a hero? Why is he a hero?
Is that this is Dondi? Who is the Viking in the comic?
Hagar the Horrible.
I see. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that wizard of id and things happening in the BC.
Do you know what the id is? Do you know what that means?
I do.
The evil impulses inside of you.
I didn't actually know
that I have been able to get rid of all of my evil impulses, but many people can't.
Do you think comics can be used for good?
No.
As well? Oh.
Yes, they can.
Because we'll always take them in the worst possible way.
Family Circus can be used.
I mean, are you supposed to believe that not me character really did all those things? That's what I wasn't sure what the author's intent was. Whether there really was a character called Not Me who broke the cookie jar and is invisible or whatever. I forget actually how he's visualized.
That child, well, I think when you look at the comic and you can't really see Not Me, or it's like sometimes I've seen it as a silhouette, that is a child for whom society cannot see. You see, they're in the blind spot of humanity.
That is so wise.
And what are you to do if society it just ignores you? Well, of course you resort to crime. Of course you break the cookie jar. Is it a cry for attention, or is it sustenance? You see, simply food. What should not me do? What would you have not me do?
Not be?
Wow. Not be.
It has a certain poetic resonance. If not me, could not be. But then again, I think that you're showing that maybe anything can be food for wise thoughts. That if a wise person towards the funny pages, wisdom will increase. If a foolish person looks toward that, so we gotta. It's not the materials. It's not the funny papers that we should be angry about. It's the quality of the minds looking at the funny papers. So
I don't know, and it depends. If the funny papers are full of microaggressions, well, then yeah, they should be. That's that, isn't it? That's that.
I mean, yeah, that we definitely need to cancel
comics.
Several of them, and in fact, don't just replace them with other comics. Just have a big bar that says "canceled," and it's just in there every day in the paper.
Every day. It'd be funny to start this social justice warrior campaign to get comics banned, or at least some certain comics banned for being inappropriate and full of microaggressions. But then it turns out it's just I just hate it. I just can't see it in the paper anymore. I don't care anything about the culture warriors. I just don't want High and Lois in the comic strips anymore.
The one that threw me was that For Better or For Worse, because the characters would actually get older.
Yes.
And that's just wrong. That's not the way comics are supposed to be.
That is my one tip of the hat. That's my one, someone can't be asleep at the switch if they're getting older. And I'm not saying everything that came out was gold, but they I would not be surprised if there's only 28 Lockhorns and they just reprint them. Functionally, there are 20.
Was there character development in Kathy? Did she get over some of her apprehensions? Did she eventually marry her boyfriend or whatever and stop griping about those same things?
I don't know. And I again, I got to say, I think Kathy was also, I think the author cared. It wasn't a mail-in. A lot of words in there.
Yeah, like that strip that Alan Moore wrote. If he wrote a strip, he's a comic artist known for putting a lot of words.
Yes.
And I can't think of any of the funny pages people offhand that would just, you can't fit a lot of words.
Pack there, yeah.
But that would just have a good 3/4 of the little box filled with words, dense words.
Kathy did it.
Tiny people at the bottom.
Ugh. Kathy pulled it off.
That's true. You could have one large word that takes up a lot of
yes.
thing, but a multiplicity of words, reflecting on the human condition.
Do you think TikToks scratch the same itch as the funny pages?
Most
if they're not, if they're short, these little 3-panel things, short little bits. Maybe it's just one thing. Ha ha ha! It's this is what everyone who used to write comic strips, if they were born today, they would be doing tweets or TikToks.
So can I say that I've only actually seen TikToks when they are pulled out and put into some other format, like there'll be a news article saying, "Look at this great TikTok," and then they'll reproduce the video or whatever. I've never actually used the TikTok app to my knowledge. Maybe I at some point did.
Well, it's that whole idea of Twitter tweets, or just here's a short little digestible chunk. Here's a one biter. If this was an appetizer. In fact, you know what I learned? Some appetizers, you're at a wedding or something. Some you get a plate, some you get a napkin. Do you know what the etiquette and manners rules around that are?
Tell me.
If you need more than one bite to eat it, you get a little plate. If you could reasonably eat it in one bite, you only get a napkin.
I mean, I have not found. Okay, I don't think everybody obeys that rule.
Well, I'm just saying that's what the that's the rule you're supposed to.
What if it's a little sandwich? So you're going to just hold it in your hand. You're not going to put it down on the plate.
Well, yeah, but you could probably eat it in one bite. That's what I'm saying.
The function of a plate is to interact with silverware. If you don't need silverware, you don't need a plate. You can have a napkin to catch the goo.
I don't question etiquette rules. I only follow them explicitly.
You only report on them.
Yes.
You can feel superior to the
Mr. Manners. Do you think there was ever, I'm sure someone has done Mr. Manners as a bit.
That is
right.
That's too different.
Well, the whole
You're
Miss
thinking
Manners
outside
thing.
You're thinking too outside of the box. When Miss Manners is identified as an unmarried woman, I can't think of Miss Manners in any other way or conceive. I mean, if Mr.
I know why she's not married. You can make your own punchline. I just think the idea
I think Miss Manners like the subject of all good comics and never changes, even if it's a different person.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I don't know anything about it. I think that's the one thing that most comics have in common is that I have only vague recollections of them.
Okay.
That's I think their essential nature.
So do you think which way should we take Mr. Manners? Is Mr. Manners path A an honest, male-centered etiquette column? That's option A. B, a joke column, an incident, just a silly column where Mr. Manners is actually like super lazy and smelly and just like, his advice is like, here's the proper way to eat chicken wings. It's just kind of like, men have no manners. That's option B.
Well, I'm so glad that you've come to me at the paper here to make your pitch.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as a pitch, I wish you just had picked one of the things and not left it up to me, the editor, to decide.
Well, I can do that, bro. I just thought maybe you'd have an opinion about it. That's my first column right there.
So how would manners be spelled? Would it emphasize the word man somehow?
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Mr. Man.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. And with a Z on the end. Yep.
Yeah, man dash, like MAN is capitalized, ERZ is lowercase.
Yeah, you're gonna have to write that down for me. But yeah, sure. If you seem excited about it, let's do that.
I think that if we're gonna, we really need to just really hit him over the head that this is a man. Maybe have a picture of a
picture of me,
male genitalia. I mean, just a bulge, perhaps.
Okay, just a crotch with a bulge. Okay. Like the Rolling Stones.
Did you have some other idea for your
sticky fingers? I thought it'd be funny to be like, that little picture of Miss Manners in the corner. Instead, it's me, and I'm like standing on top of a Corvette in the middle of a baseball field with like a beer in one hand. You
don't actually look very manly. I'm sorry. You look as manly as the average person. I'm not trying to criticize you. But you don't look like Mr. Manners.
Well, that's all a persona. It's all a show,
So maybe we could get somebody else. Maybe we could get The Rock, or somebody that looks like, obviously not the actual Rock, but somebody that looks like The Rock to play this part of this character.
You know that's not his real name, right?
I do know that that's not his real name.
Do you know his real name?
I think it's Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I think that's his official middle name. But
You're right, Dwayne Johnson. That's his real name.
Yeah, that's not as manly a name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well, it's kind of Johnson's pretty manly. Fist bump.
Sure.
Hit it.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
so I thought maybe for the first, article of Mr. Manners, we could do something about, like about disciplining your children.
And how would Mr. Manners discipline children?
Well, you got to sit them down. You got to sit them down, and then find out what's going on inside of them. Talk about their problems.
That's very
show them that it's okay to talk about your problems.
That's very 21st century manly to express yourself in a supportive way like that.
And then, fist bump, pound a beer in front of them, and then, go on with your day.
Okay. So let me give you another sort of, you're going to answer letters from people?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So here, actually, we have some letters to our current advice columnist who, as you know, is on the way out.
Okay. Whoops.
Here, I'll just put dear Mr. Manners. I've been having trouble at school. This is evidently from, I don't know how old this person is.
Okay.
I get teased because of my extra large left foot.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do? Should I kick him in the head?
Who's it signed by?
Signed Head Kicker.
Okay, Head Kicker, here's the thing. I don't know. It's hard to tell. You might be in kindergarten. You might be in college,
It says, P.S. I am in kindergarten.
Okay. Well, this is an amazingly well-written letter for a kindergartner. Let me just start right there. And I think maybe you should focus on your positives rather than your differences, that or foot surgery. You get, maybe as you grow, your rest of your body your foot will stay the same. And then, you're just growing unevenly. Like maybe you wake up tomorrow, your right arm is really long, and you're just growing in parts.
See, the thing
I'm not a doctor.
I think your voice is inimitable. And I think maybe this should not be a column. This should be a podcast. Something where they can actually hear your
I think
voice
it's a
directly.
brand. It's a brand. It's a lifestyle brand.
Okay.
We grow it with the
column, here.
Yeah.
We are going to have to, even if it's just a podcast, we are going to have to get rid of Beetle Bailey to make room for what we're talking about here.
Hey, I'm okay with that. Who? I don't even know the guy.
Okay. It's just,
can I say something about Asians real fast?
Please do not. Let's be done with that.
Oh, it's a good one.
Beetle Bailey says plenty about Asians. That's where I learned all.
Did you know that 4/5 of everybody on planet Earth is Asian?
Lives in the Asian continent?
India, China. Yet are they part of the international dialogue? I just said something about Asians.
Yeah,
and you wanted to silence me. You wanted to silence me.
All right, I guess I will never doubt you again.
Well, don't silence me either. I just.
Well, that's what silence is. Silence actually violence, Mr. Manners?
Well, that's a good question. Do you got like a disease where if you don't hear stuff, your brain melts? Well, then me being quiet is just, making your brain melt. That's very violent. That's a very violent thing to do, is make somebody's brain melt. You should not do that. If you contemplate doing that, don't do that.
Okay, so we're going to definitely pretty much stop printing the paper, because paper print is silent. Have you noticed? I mean, unless you like crinkle it. I guess that's what's good about old-fashioned newspaper is that it's actually very hard to keep it entirely silent.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that.
Maybe you just hire somebody to read it out loud, you know.
I mean, that's a thing. People used to do that on the radio. You know about that? How they would read the Beetle Bailey
on the radio.
And in the first paddle, Beetle is leaning over and he's looking at the Sarge's butt crack. And then in the second paddle, he's saying, "Hey, what you got down there?" And then and then they would have a commercial break. And then they would maybe come back next week and give you the rest of the comic.
Are you auditioning to be the wacky sound effects guy on the
I'm
Mr. Manners podcast? Is that what
I remember from my childhood in the 30s? I'm quite old.
You were a child in the 1930s?
Yes. I'm really quite old.
How old does that make you?
I'm 95.
Man, you're old.
I'm very
You
old.
are old.
And yet I can't afford to retire because of Biden.
That sounds about right.
And
that sounds about right. Yeah. Oh, Biden.
I'm so glad we're doing this thing just for the supporters. I've just decided that the public should never
Come on. Ugh.
Okay, that was better.
Rainy day. It can be in the rainy day bin.
The first scene, nothing. Well, let's talk about both these from an improv perspective. Did you have a thing? Because I know I had nothing from a philosophy perspective, but did you have a thing for either of these from an improv perspective?
So actually, this just happened. I was in a show this last week, and it began with this scene about this school teacher, probably high school, who was definitely a high school teacher, who was in charge of the school talent show. And she's talking to the three kids, and the three kids, she wants something clean and wholesome, and we're all going to sing and, hold hands and sing some U2 song that your parents will think is funny, and of course the kids don't want any. One of them wants to be a stand-up and be raunchy. They just don't. They don't want to do what you want to. And the teacher is just very, very uptight and very anxious about the whole thing. And through talking, the kids find out that the teacher is having marital struggles with her husband and has been sleeping in the boiler room. So of course they got to go down to the boiler room and check that out. Oh my gosh, you're sleeping out here? Let's go look at it, And you want to solve the problem. What happened? Why is your wedding on the rocks? You want to kind of solve that problem, but it may not be actually what's funny, if that makes sense, or necessarily interesting. The very next scene was some high school kid going to meet the husband, knocking on the door. Hey, your wife's living in the boiler room? What? She's in the boiler room. What's going on? He's like,
that sounds hilarious.
Well, I was the husband who opened the door to this kid, and it had been made that I was a multimillionaire and lived in a mansion, and that was a whole earlier backstory kind of a thing. And ostensibly, the scene is about trying to solve this marital problem. What's going on with this marriage problem? And at first, in my brain, I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, is it my fault? Is it her fault? Are we growing apart? I'm trying to ballpark reasons, but I can't really. Nothing is inherently interesting. Nothing is, well, that idea. It's funnier if I cheated than she cheated. It's like, no, that's not, so there's kind of this fake, the fake reason for the scene. The stated reason for the scene is this kid wants to figure it out. And I was very proud of myself, and I recognized this, and instead was just like, I'm just going to be weird. I'm just going to offer this high school kid a brandy, and we're going to go and talk about his love life. And it may feel like that has nothing to do with the scene, just like me not asking you in the car directions, how do I get to this person's house? It's like, that's about 15% of the content of the scene. However long the scene is, that's 15%. That's wrong. That's wrong. I don't mean to say that. I mean, it's about 15% of the scene, and it shouldn't be any higher. If it's any higher, the scene's going to get shorter, a lot shorter. So all the hemming and hawing in the car And all of my offering this 14-year-old kid a brandy and talking about his love, trying to discuss my marital problems by him talking about things is actually interesting and funny. And like, that's actually what is, ostensibly our second scene was about you interviewing this guy to do a news column. And that's why it existed. But all the punchlines aren't, well, okay, we'll pay you a standard flat fee for each article, and then you'll get it's like, that's not, we need a reason the scene exists, but the humor is going to come from my, weird machismo guy. Does that make sense?
He was a very thoughtful machismo guy. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I kind of didn't want to be a douchebag. That was my first, second, third, and fifth idea.
I mean, we got to reinterpret manliness for the new generation. I think that
yes,
right on point. And I think that this is the podcast, the improv podcast that you should do next.
So sometimes I'll tell students it's okay to follow the distraction. In fact, maybe do follow the distraction. The distraction being this thing that's keeping us from, this whole thing with Dwayne Johnson. That was probably like 20 to 35 seconds. And it was pretty funny with us talking about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I thought it was funny. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed that segment. So I think I'm still just reeling from the first scene, because the first scene, which I forced as a scene, you were just trying to tell me something.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
The cab driver was doing for you, but the character of doing that made you even less likely to want to relate to this person as a driver. Even though I was like, oh, be curious, interesting people are interested in other people. I've been drawn into this conversation. I'll try to pursue this a little bit, but the constant changing of the subject in mysterious ways made it hard to, which I know was the point of the character, but then where does the chemistry come out of that?
Feeling.
What advice would you give to me as someone who was just in that scene?
Feeling the difficulty and hardness of conversing is the right feeling to feel. My person was difficult to deal with, for sure. The difficult thing is this whole idea of, this is really annoying and I'm not getting satisfaction. I need to either, and I thought if you had to go back, listen to the tape, I think your frustration increased marginally and incrementally, but I think we just probably needed a higher top end for you to land on. Either, hey, you know what? Never mind. I'm just going to I got a phone call to make, or put my earbuds in, or just like, this guy's ridiculous. Does that make sense? Like, you're not now. Will I allow you to do that? Will I allow you to ignore me? Of course not. Of course not. Or if you want to be like, yeah, you know what? Actually, let's talk about Biden for a second. Let's talk about you. Are you aware that the infrastructure package signed? And if you wanted to like go in on me a little bit, that's fine too. So if you find yourself, it's like, man, I've been in the same place emotionally for a while. I need to go to a different emotional place, and it kind of doesn't matter where it is.
All right. So what one would actually do in this situation, which is to turn any conversation toward like, are we there yet? Why are we not there yet? I want to get out of this car. That was the least interesting choice that I could have made, and that's the one that I made.
No, not necessarily. There are some. That one is tricky because the nominal what, getting in an Uber, you do need to get to where you're going. And again, it's going to be 15% of the scene. It's going to be 15% of the scene. But making the right turn, making the wrong turn, that stuff is going to could be more difficult to sustain. Maybe physically, if we were on stage together, we could make big grotesque movements and run around and make it kind of a clown show. But you having to deal with this guy is going to be most of the humor, if that makes sense.
So let me try to redeem the philosophy by then relating that to just like when can you violate someone's rights? Like when
Oh, here we go.
do criminals have rights? Well, in a social situation, when someone violates the norms, at
Mhm.
what point do you then also get to violate the norms and just
Sure.
completely ignore them, or whatever the when do you get to shun them, or do people have an inherent right, just like they have a right to liberty and speech and things, to be treated with a modicum of not just respect but support and solidarity? It seems like we don't actually see that as a right. We're very just looking for opportunities, unless you're like, are very, I want to say, religious in the broad sense, in terms of I'm here with an agenda of being charitable.
Sure.
Unless you're that, then as soon as somebody is right. This is why if you're not on the lookout for people with like autism spectrum disorder or something, if you don't know that that's a thing and you just think that somebody's going to be rude, then that's why we have a whole campaign of education about that, because because they have violated the norms, and we are fully justified in saying you are no longer a member of the human community, as far as I'm concerned, for this conversation.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I can take your wallet.
What? Yeah.
Anything else on your mind?
I was like looking to, where's the guest? They haven't said anything in a while, but I think is it El Salvador or another country in Central America is elected a new president who seems very, very progressive, and like, I'm going to solve the gang problem. It's like, yeah, how are you going to do it? By stomping on them in the only way that they understand. But when I'm done stomping on them in the only way they understand, and jailing them and letting the police, whoops, we murdered somebody, then I'll be really progressive. And I know that has worked very well for some very terrible people. But some of the things I've been reading are like, it might actually work this time. Like, he actually might really pull it back after cleaning house.
Yeah, well, Trump's going to be dictator only on day one.
Only
on day one. You just got to clean the house.
Clean the house.
Get rid of all the parasites.
Step away. I mean, if you could guarantee that would happen, if you could go in the future, or you could change someone's DNA, put a time bomb inside their brain, that's like, if I push the button, your brain will explode. All right. And I'm not even going to tell you what you could do, but I'm going to say this. After being a dictator and solving the gang problem, you have to abdicate gracefully, and then you can live the rest of your life. Would you do that?
No, I don't want to.
Because you might fall asleep and forget you had the button in your pocket. For that reason alone, you're showing off the button. Check it out. I got this button. I'll blow up the president's brain if you.
I mean, I think power for power's sake, that's like kind of where where it's at.
Okay.
That's the philosophy lesson for today. Power, all right, for power's sake is all we're ever looking for.
Well, here's have you thought about this? The world we're living in now is the best world we could possibly make.
I mean, that rhymes with something about power for power's sake. So I do.
So we like it.
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
On aesthetic grounds.
This is the best we can do right now as a race. We are currently doing the best we can do.
Yes. I mean, if there were just a little more, I think, charity and tolerance toward those old comics. Stop tearing up your Blondie and your Beetle Bailey every night. Just let them be.
It has crossed the line, sadly, from an expression of anger to one of perverse gratification.
Yeah. I don't like it.
And now I need to do it. And
that's going to be the new theme of the podcast, is every day We're gonna get a piece of literature. We're gonna get some sort of media. We're gonna briefly discuss it, and then we're going to rip it up right into the microphone. It's gonna be it's an ASMR, but like with rage instead of relaxation.
You hear this, Melville? Call me tore up into tiny pieces. Next week on PVIV Books.
The problem with this is that we have to actually get paper copies of anything we're going to discuss. How many times do you actually have a paper copy of the thing that you are insensitive? I mean, we could print them out, but then printing them out and ripping them, that seems to kind of defeat the purpose.
Yeah.
Like you have to go to the source. You have to purchase. So, buy a lot of copies of Dianetics or the Bible or really whatever you're mad at. Marx's Das Kapital, and then rip them up in the public square.
Yeah.
And then buy some more because you have to replace those. That's the thing about book burning. It's just not efficient because you're not getting rid of the books. You're just generating more market for those. The
authors are laughing all the way to the bank.
Yep.
Well, I should say you're making the authors cry all the way to the bank.
All the way to the bank. I mean, if somebody's going to buy my book because it is a uniquely well suited for kindling, as long as they just keep buying it every time they need kindling, I'm okay with it.
And try to get direct deposits. So you don't actually have to go to the bank.
Yeah.
Set that up with your publisher.
Laughing.
We had a good one, Mark. We had a good one.
To look at the website of the bank. All right. Well, we got somewhere eventually. I appreciate your sitting. I thought an hour before, should I come up with a topic? And I said, no, that is not how we do things these days.
That's not the improv of it. There will be a reality that will emerge. We will acknowledge that reality. We will sense it. And we will name it, label it, bring it to the fore.
All right. So, folks, I know that there's new transcript features available on your favorite podcast apps. So please print out a transcript of this as soon as you're done and rip it up into tiny pieces.
And then put a Twitter post of you doing that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
That's how we will know. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for spending this time with us. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, everyone.
I should sell my soul. Bankrupt.